kind of transition into the career part as we kind of start to bring this home a little bit. We talked a couple times that you've had a nonlinear career.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up in the media business,
Nope.
right? You didn't grow up, at a CPG,
Nope.
right? You grew up more on sort of the deal making side of a lot of this.
Correct.
And you know, first question I would ask is, how do you think that's benefited you as you stepped into the role that you've got at Food Institute?
Yeah. The hard skills that I learned through, financial modeling, reading a balance sheet, right? Building relationships with senior leaders of like that's what I learned, at Goldman, at Lehman, and consulting and private equity, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't have learned those skills outside of those roles. So that really helped set the stage to where I am now, right? Um, and so I would say that even before I worked on Wall Street, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like my
Mm,
personality is one of an entrepreneur. Like I
mm.
never, even within the first 3 months of working at Goldman Sachs, I looked at my my bosses and the partners of my division, and I was like, I have no desire to like go down that path, and like and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but for me, I never aspired to be a partner at XYZ company, investment bank, or private equity firm. um I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So, but I went through that, I took the 15 years, right, in these different
Mm.
roles to learn what I needed to learn, right? So that when I acquired the Food Institute, okay, I had a wealth of experience and knowledge to be able to execute what I wanted to do. I'm more of on the creative side, if you can tell, Bob. Like my mind's always turning, right? It drives my wife crazy because even on weekends I'm like, hey, what? I have a new idea, right? And so my mind's always turning. So that's the way I operate. And so being in a media uh, environment, it allows me to use that creativity and the passion of being an entrepreneur and my passion for media and content. And that's really it. I'm someone where I can I went through the internet bubble in 2001. There you go. The great financial crisis where I worked at Lehman Brothers, and my entire team got wiped out.
Oof.
And now and so I've been through these cycles of really I wouldn't say traumatic, but really acute
Mm.
kind of like stops in my career. And I was able to thrive through even during COVID. I remember when I acquired January of 2020, COVID hits. My daughter is born the next month in February 2020, and then the world shuts down,
Yeah.
right? And so um but that forced me to really think about how to pivot and change. Food Institute is not it, today's Food Institute is very different than it was when I
Mm.
acquired it. The entire culture has changed. Our growth strategy has changed. All that happened in the past 3 years, and so I learned a lot about like that. I'm able to be in an environment, in any environment, and thrive.
Yeah.
Like I had to kind of learn that by going through these periods of at these jobs, and so bringing it back to the career side is I think having a diverse sort of work experience, whether you work at one or two or three, that can only help because you learn about how people tick, how teams grow, what works, what
Mhm.
doesn't work. All of that is valuable experience that you can take to your next role, right? Whether you want to be an entrepreneur or whether you want to stay in your current industry, right? So
Mm.
variety is something I think is something that I would encourage because you could take those experiences to the next position.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really, really strong. Two things sort of strike me. One is that variety is good because it brings just seeing the world from different perspectives, seeing different things, and going, oh, this reminds me of something that might sound very non-contiguous to what we're talking about, but actually is pretty analogous to
Right.
what we're talking about. But the other thing I was going to say just quickly is all the Goldman consulting, PE stuff, you learn the business of business.
Right.
You learn the business of business. And so that's why you're able to be in situations. And so yeah, it's so funny because this is like the complete other end of the spectrum, but my degree was in finance. And
Right.
I'm so glad that it was because
Right.
that's the lingua franca of business is like
Right.
numbers and like what is a balance sheet and an income statement,
Right.
and what does all this stuff even mean? And if you don't understand the scorecard for business,
Right.
then that's a gigantic disadvantage of playing a game that you don't understanding what the rules are and why
Exactly.
decisions are made the way that they're made. So I think that's really, really cool.